All right, it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. All right, we have some nor'easter to discuss for this evening. Let me just post this out before we get started to see if anybody else would like to join. Looks like already we have about an inch of snow on the ground where I am right now. All right. Hello, Raymond. How you doing? What do you mean by this model hugger? Almost done there. Okay. Ah, interesting. Okay. Those may not, if they were actual meteorologists, I don't know why they would be doing that, but otherwise, those that are not meteorologists just go straight to the forecast models. Okay. Looks like I got everything up. No delving yet, but we'll get started. Let me just readjust. There we go. All right, man, how have you been doing? Oh yeah, this is my first live stream of the year. Woohoo! Let's switch on over. Do you have a link that you could send me? National Weather Service Pittsburgh called out the Weather Channel about their map. Well, let's take a look at what I got so far, which we are actually starting with the National Weather Service. Okay, so here. This is the weather story that they posted out on their social media 4 p.m. today. So they have a map of their snow total map, their ice total map, and some bullet points here. So we'll just skim through these. Heavy snow rates greater than 1 inch per hour are possible and along and just west of the Appalachians today and Monday. Ice accumulation will expand northward through the interior mid-Atlantic states. Heavy snow is expected along the Appalachians into the interior northeast. Significant snow totals are likely across most of West Virginia northward through western Pennsylvania and New York, the higher elevations of New England. Along the Atlantic coastline, strong winds and coastal flooding are likely. Some locations may reach moderate flood levels, with inundation affecting some coastal roads and structures. So, this is the weather story they're talking about. Let me see if I can zoom in here. So, again, this is kind of what they're saying. The more interior, maybe a little bit of lake effect snow is where we're going, is where the snow total can be 2 feet of snow. But then once you start getting near the coast, because the temperatures are going to warm up, the snow totals will be going down, it's looking like, but the ice accretion will be going up. So, Albany, Raymond, it looks like you still might be, depending on exactly where it is in the yellow or the orange there, 6 to 8 or 8 to 12. And then for the tri-state area around New York City there, it's a very tight gradient that spans from less than an inch to 4 to 6 inches, all within about 30 miles. So, let me see. I would probably say the lower Hudson Valley is going to be mostly in the darker blues, 3 to 6 inches. I probably wouldn't do the 3 to 4 and then 4 to 6, just 3 to 6. And Sussex County in New Jersey, that northwest corner in the higher elevation area, that also looks like it's going to be in the 3 to 6 inch mark, which I know I haven't had a video out recently, but this is something I've been saying when some of my friends and colleagues from work were asking. Either it's all snow and it's 6 to 10 inches of snow, or it's going to be a little bit warmer and we're going to have less snow, maybe 3 to 6 inches, but then a glazing of ice on top of that. I will be using that term now. Frustrated about the armchair meteorologist on Facebag. Yes, it does hurt ground truth people. Because if someone tries to find the one model that has the highest snow total and post that and say this is what's going to happen, yeah, it makes us all look bad. Okay, the last thing before we move away from this I want to discuss is going to be the ice. Now, this is where the highest snow totals, there's no ice, it looks like. But a lot of the area is scattered in this yellow, which is 1/100th to 1/10 of an inch of ice, with specifically, looks like Sussex County, right along the New York, New Jersey border, 1/10 to 1/4 inch of ice. Now, that is a lot. So we could be seeing, say, 3 to 6 inches of snow, and then on top of that, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice. That's going to be causing some very terrible conditions for traveling tomorrow morning, because that's when it's looking like we're going to start to see the transition from snow to this sleet, freezing rain mix. And Raymond, you may remember, this is the most challenging, I've always said, with forecasts, is when that freezing line's right over, because you can't just assume the 10-to-1 ratio or just assume all rain. It's that transition back and forth that makes it challenging. All right. So now, from the National Weather Service as well, we are looking at let me see if there's anything new. So these are the watches and warnings and some advisories. So winter storm warning. It looks like it's for not Sussex, but very close. Sullivan, part of Ulster. I don't know what county that is in Connecticut, but that has a winter storm warning. Most of the area looks like it's in a winter weather advisory. And then the coastal areas, Long Island, the Jersey Shore, all is in the coastal flood warning. Oh, and they also have one other graphic we'll take a peek at here. When was this sent? So this is a little bit more recent, 547. The big story will continue to be deep low pressure system, which will impact the area through Monday. Damaging winds, significant coastal flooding, snow and ice, and locally heavy rainfall can all be expected. Widespread moderate to locally major coastal flooding around the times of high tide Monday. So that's also going to be an issue too, as we're experiencing astronomical high tide because of the moon right now. So the astronomical high tide in combination with the high tides and the flooding from the storm is going to make it even worse. And Raymond, yes, you are right there with the warmer layers in the upper atmosphere. This is where I wish I had my old college graphics from this, but everything always starts as snow. Even in the middle of summer, 80 degrees out, rain is starting as snow. It always starts as snow. So we got the snow, and then depending on the layers of warm and cold, it could go from snow to rain to sleet because it goes cold again. And that's where we get sleet versus the freezing rain. It goes from snow, it warms up to rain. Then just at the surface, it gets cold enough where that rain freezes on contact because freezing rain is still liquid. Strong to damaging winds for the coast late this evening into Monday morning. Gale to storm conditions, which could mean tropical storm force winds. Not a tropical storm, but tropical storm force winds, or at least let's say tropical storm force winds, because it's going to get up there. Wintry mix inland with mainly rain near the coast. 2 to 4 inches of snow and glaze of ice for the interior portions of northeast New Jersey and the lower Hudson Valley. So I was mentioning that with the lower Hudson Valley because that's where there is, where did it go? The winter storm warnings. These may be expanded a little bit more, but it's right on the cusp there. 1 to 2 inches of snow, and then possibly icy roads for the rest of the interior tonight. A light coating of snow possible for portions of New York City. Because, like you were mentioning about the climate, knowing the climate, New York City has the urban heat island effect, which means because of a dense population, it's warmer. Because of people congested together, because of cars and the buildings, that heat creates its own microclimate. What else we got here? Minor urban and poor drainage flooding possible for much of the region. That, I would say, goes for everywhere. Everywhere in the Northeast could be affected by this. All right, so this is kind of just the statements put out there. Now, let's start to take a look at this storm. All right, so here it is. You have your classic comma. This was the favorite of my college professor, the comma storms, which this is. We have, let me put it in motion. We have the center of the low there, and then we have the arm of the heaviest precipitation right through here. So right now, it looks like that's going over Richmond, Virginia, but it's going to be making its way up, and a lot of this heavier precipitation is also out to sea right now, making its way up the coast and into the Jersey Shore and then through the New York City area. Yeah, the cherry picking of the worst case scenarios isn't that, or not, isn't that, it isn't helpful at all. All right, so this is the radar from the National Weather Service. So let me pull up radar scope. So on radar scope here, I am on the Mount Holly station. We can see that pretty distinct freezing line. Right there's the freezing line where you see it popping back and forth between snow, sleet, and rain. So it looks like that heavy rain is starting to enter Tom's River there. And that freezing line is probably going to stay there. What time is it? It is 8:25. So I would probably say that freezing line is going to stay in that same spot for the next few hours. Then it's going to start moving north. So that's where we're going to get a good 3 or 4 hours of just snow throughout the area until that freezing line starts to retreat north. Delvin, hello, welcome. I'm glad the notifications worked. I can confirm Meg said that the notifications did work. Raymond, I'm assuming you, when I went live, you also got the notification, which is why you were right on there. Okay. So, do you either of you have any snow by you yet? Because I looked out the window. It's got about an inch of snow already. And glad that's good and that's working. All right. So there's our freezing line. Let's keep that in line. We have a third guest now. No snow in Boston in terms of the current snow. Okay. Because I don't think by you there is anything just yet. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's nothing there just yet. It looks like it didn't reach yet. But you can see it's coming. There it is all. And that band we saw in the very beginning, that's what we also, of the Mount Holly one, that's what we saw going into the Boston one. Yeah, I know. That's why usually I don't try and be on social media because I don't like to just see what others are posting like that. Although, there was one, I have no idea if he is a meteorologist or not. This was in, I forgot when it was, the tornado outbreak in the Midwest. I forgot when that was. But I saw something really cool from him. He had an automation setup with, I guess, with HomeKit or whatever he was using, where whenever there was a watch warning or advisory issued for his area, his lights would blink red, which I thought was pretty cool. Anyway, moving on. Now let's take a look at the satellite, which I thought was pretty impressive here. Let's put this in motion. So that is, again, your typical comma storm, as my college professor would call it. There looks like the center of the low rotating. So this, what are we on? We are on long wave. Let's see how the nighttime microphysics works with this. Interesting. So you can see a pretty sharp line of the end of the cloud cover there going through North Carolina and Virginia. And that is probably the dry slotting going on. So let's see the water vapor. Where are you? Water vapor. Yes. So there's the center of the low, which actually there's a tiny little dry slot going into the center of the low rotation there. But then this big area of dry air coming through. You see, that's what's causing that very sharp line of clouds. That's also really what creates the comma storms. I will look that name up later, Raymond. See if that's the guy or not. All right, so that is the satellite. Now let's start to take a look at the models. So I got the GFS, I have the Icon, I have the NAM, and I have the Euro out of order. There we go. And that should be in the order there. GFS Euro. Okay. So let's take a look here. So on the GFS, right here, that is 1 a.m. That's showing. Let's see if I can zoom in right there. The freezing line looks like it's just passing through or past New York City, heading into the lower Hudson Valley, before the heaviest precipitation made its way through. And then here at 8 a.m., extremely heavy rain. So that I don't disagree with. I think we're going to have the heavy rain come through in the morning, and that's just going to create more treacherous conditions. The other thing I wanted to check on here, so we see the heavy rain there, but what is the temperature? Thermodynamics, 2-meter temperatures. So that might be him. Okay. I did like that little HomeKit automation thing. All right, so here. So this is 12Z. So this is 8 a.m. Sorry, 7 a.m. And it's showing 39 degrees, 40 degrees, 36 degrees. So all in the mid to upper 30s. Now, the mid to upper 30s is still not very warm, so it's not going to cause a lot of melting just by the temperature itself. And then going into the evening, that's where it looks like the temperature just drops like a rock into the low 20s there. And it stays cold into the low 20s for the highs on Tuesday, going into the teens for the overnight lows on Tuesday night. So it's going to be cold on the back end of this. We just have that little warm sector coming through. And that's timing for the warm sector coming through and for those, the heaviest part of the storm. So if I switch this back to mean surface level pressure and precip, you see that correlates with the heaviest rain. That doesn't mean that we're going to have light snow. Some of the snow in the darker blues there, that could be, say, 1 or 2 inches an hour in some spots. Yes, I know this is the 6-hour average precipitation rate, but the average means you could have something higher and something lower. So if it's averaging, let's see, right around New York City, just before that, let's see, it was the darker blue, 1 to 2 inches of snow per hour before it changed over. That could mean we have a good, say, 3 inches to that 6-inch range before the turnover to rain, or 3 to 6 inches of snow before the turnover to rain. And then the heaviest is happening that 7 a.m.-ish time frame. And then it starts to make its way out by the afternoon, but behind it is going to be cold and windy, and it is going to feel like it is mid to late January like it is. All right, so that's the GFS here on the good old Tropical Tidbits. Now let's take a look at the Euro, and we are switching to pivotal weather for that. All right, so here, 0Z, so this was 7 p.m., which just passed, and it's pretty accurate there with the, if we look at the freezing line and we compare it to what we're seeing here on the radar, it's actually validating pretty well that initial frame. I even think I hear some of the workers in the apartment complex out there with some carts or something. What? I heard like the cart. Yeah, but not with a plow. They don't have the plows on the trucks to go through the sidewalks. They got the little gator things. There's Meg. Okay. So back on the euro here. We are at now 6Z, so 1 a.m. And now that's showing pretty heavy ice accumulation. The GFS does not show ice. Actually, no, it does. One of them didn't. I don't remember which one didn't. But this one does. It's just not showing a lot of ice at all. It's just heavy snow to heavy rain. And the GFS tends to be on the warmer side of all the forecast models. So if we take a look here at the Euro, which is in terms of temperature is about middle range. So this is showing the heavy snow, light snow to heavy sleet, freezing rain mixing in there. And then by the 7 a.m. time frame, actually it's faster than the GFS too. So this actually might mean more ice. So the GFS is slower and slightly warmer. The Euro looks like it's faster and slightly colder. And then let's take a look at the icon here. So again, it's still showing. Actually, this has the freezing line staying a little bit more south there, going into that 1 a.m. time frame. So it's still snowing, just snow for New York City going into the lower Hudson Valley and northern New Jersey there at 1 a.m. But then that heavy rain is still going to come through. So that's about 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. And this is 8 a.m. Or sorry, 7 a.m. So that's just still a lot of rain coming through. And then on the back side of this, there's not really a lot of precipitation. And the wraparound snow, based on the track of the low, it looks like the New York City area may not see any wraparound snow. But you, Raymond, maybe not you, Delvin, but Raymond in the Albany area, I definitely think you're going to see some wraparound snow from this. Raymond, I will have to take a look at that and see if that is the guy I was talking about, or the guy I was watching that night. Okay, so that's the icon. Oh, before we continue, let's take a look at the temperatures here. So we're back at 0Z. All right, and let's switch this to meter temperatures. All right, so I have 28 degrees outside right now, and this is showing somewhere between 26 and 33. All right, that's fairly accurate. And you can see that freezing line right there. That's pretty spot on compared to the actual like radar imagery. Even the tilt is correct, it looks like. So the Euro, I have pretty high confidence in right now. And then by, that's 6Z, so 1 a.m., the temperature does rise above freezing, even as far as maybe 40-ish degrees by New York City there, looks like. And this is what a couple of my friends from work were saying. It's going to be 40 degrees by like 2 a.m. It's just going to be all rain. But no, that's not the case. Because if we look at this, about 40 degrees, and I go back to this, the precipitation type, that's ice. That is not rain. So that's what I'm trying to say is it's not going to be just rain. Oh, it's nothing to deal with. It's just going to be a slight nuisance. And yes, Delvin, I think this is going to set it up for being below average for the next, say, week in terms of temperatures. Oh, look. Pivotal Weather Plus, 7-day free trial, 6Z and 18Z Euro, and no ads and more. All right, so that's what the Euro was showing. And then by this time at 12Z, let's take a look at the temperature. It's still hovering right around the low 40s there, upper 30s to low 40s. And yes, definitely a typical La Nina northeast winter here. But we'll see what happens come February, because February has been some of the snowiest months of the winter. Okay, now back to the icon here. So that heavy rain is showing not at 1 a.m., more like 4 a.m. That's when the switchover is happening. So think about that. If by, say, 3 or 4 a.m., that's when the switchover is happening, and before that's all snow, we're still going to see a good amount of snow out of this too. The question at the tail end of this is what's going to happen to that snow. Is it going to stay? Is it going to melt a little with the rain, and then we're going to have ice on top of that slightly melted snow? Or is the snow going to stay in that whatever total it comes out to be, and then there's going to be ice on top of that? And let's take a look at the icons. Temperatures here. So starting around the mid 20s to about 30, which is good. And then it warms up to right that freezing line right there, again at that 6Z 1 a.m. time. So that's when the temperature warms up, and that's when we might see snow to sleet, not necessarily snow to rain. And you can see this little surge of warmth in there. That's where we're probably going to see the heaviest of the rain. So let me switch this back here. Yep. There's that little surge of rain, and you can see the shape of that matches pretty well with the shape of this. 3 to 6 inches of snow, and I definitely agree with that. I think from Albany down through the lower Hudson Valley is really going to be in the 3 to 6 inches of snow. And then the lower Hudson Valley into New York City may see a little bit more ice than you, Raymond, because the temperature doesn't get too much warmer. Like it touches 40 degrees going into New York City, but it barely gets above freezing for going up to Albany. So you may not see as much of an ice or sleet mix out there. Oh, wow. Interesting. Because I remember I was watching a football game with my dad, and there were some pretty intense winds going through there in Orlando, it was. So there was a tornado in Fort Myers. Interesting. Okay. Let's switch this back. And then by 8 to 11 a.m. is where the storm is really dissipating. You can see how far apart the actual center of the low is and where the heaviest precipitation is. They're not right on top of each other. So that's where it really starts to just peter out as it's making its way through. And last but not least, the NAM. Let's take a look. So that's 7, 8 o'clock, and that actually looks pretty close to where the freezing line is when we look at the radar right now. So NAM, okay, good. This is showing. This is actually warming up faster. So it does show a little bit of sleet and ice in there through the New York City area. But it looks like by 10 p.m. to midnight is when the transition would happen, which is sooner than any of the other forecast models. Oh, the wind chill probably was low single digits, I believe, because the actual air temperature for that Friday night into Saturday was about 9 or 10 degrees. So the wind chill was probably near zero. Oh, and then it looks like as it moves through, the heaviest rain starts to develop by, looks like here, 4 a.m. It gets a little bit more organized as it's making its way out. And then the wraparound snow actually makes its way all the way down to New York City on the NAM. So the NAM, I don't know about. It started pretty good, but then it ended up being much faster than any of the other forecast models. All right. Let's start now. Take a look at some snow totals from each of the forecast models. So where I can, this is where I learned also from the television. Delvin is lurking. Anyway, so GFS, I have the total positive snow depth change. That was actually something I learned to use, which is a bit more accurate for actual ground total than what falls out of the sky. Okay, let's see what happens here. So by Monday, when everything is all said and done, let's zoom in a little bit here and take a look. Okay, so yes, going up near where the winter storm warnings are is the green, which the green starts at 12 inches of snow. So that's 12 to probably 16 inches of snow this is putting out. But specifically there and specifically here, once you get into the the main part of the lower Hudson Valley into New York City, that's right at the cusp there of a trace to 4 inches. It looks like the 4-inch, come on, you can zoom in, is right at the border between Rockland and Orange County. So this is going maybe an inch to, let's say right around an inch for New York City. So that's the GFS. Let's take a look at the Euro. Well, Delvin, I am glad you are spending time with us here. Okay. See the Euro here. Colder than the GFS. Much different story. Let's take a look at the legend down here. So that light pink, again, is 16 to 20 inches of snow for Sullivan Ulster, right where the winter storm warning is. for the lower Hudson Valley, that freezing line, that high gradient, is going right through Rockland County versus, actually, yeah, it was a little bit more north because this was warmer. So that harsh gradient line was actually moved a little bit more south. So here, and it's also pretty tight gradient here where it's saying the same thing for New York City. Just a trace. That's the 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. And then the lower Hudson Valley is right at that blue line, which is about 3 inches, which is actually more in line with what my forecast was saying. And then let's take a look here at the icon. And that's far enough. So about the same thing in terms of New York City. A trace to 1 inch of snow. And then going into the Hudson Valley, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And then you get that very tight gradient that very quickly goes up into the 6+ inch. And then Albany gets that little bullseye at 13. And then, let's take a look at the NAM. The NAM is quite different than all of them, which is showing almost no snow for... Actually, that's still right at that 1/10 of an inch of snow. But it's the same kind of gradient going into the lower Hudson Valley, where it's a 1/10 to 1 inch of snow through most of... actually all of Orange, and then slightly getting into Sullivan and Ulster County there. That's where it's starting to get into the 4-inch plus. Yes. Okay, Nam. I don't think this is handling it very well at all. So my bet, in terms of the closest, let's say... it's between the icon and the euro. So I think in terms of the euro, these higher snow totals, it may not be that high. So take the euro's positioning and just drop the highest snow totals maybe 1 or 2 inches. But leave the line here. And that's probably what I think is going to happen. And this is going out to the interwebs. I am saying for New York City area, about a trace to 1 inch of snow, just snow, before we talk about rain or ice or anything like that. And then for that Sussex County, I don't think it's going to get to 12 inches like this is saying. I think that's going to be in the 6 to 10 inches, maybe more towards the lower end, the 6th end of that range. For Orange County here, because it's on the northern side of that blue line, 9 inches, yeah, it's definitely possible. I still am sticking with that 6 to 10 inches. I think this is going to be a little bit on the high side, but we'll still say that could be up to 12. And then for Rockland and Westchester, I'm still sticking with 3 to 6 inches of snow in there. It's going to be very close because the between here, Rockland and Orange and Westchester and what's that, Putnam, there's the Hudson River. The Hudson River, again, has its own microclimates, like we were talking about with microclimate of New York City earlier. Raymond, I am not sure. I don't think so, but let me see if I can pull up from one of these. A SKU-T. Let's say here with the heaviest, so here's the GFS at 12Z. Let's take a look at the soundings and take a look at the Cape. No, there's not a lot of Cape there. Let's take a look at the icons. Right in the heart there. that one doesn't have cape. And the NAM. Let's say also, actually go to, oh, that's too far. Let's say right about here. Let's go this one. Oh, nope, I can't do soundings on there either. Oh, that's interesting. The GFS is the only one that has click soundings. Sounding not available. Soundings available on Plus for the pivotal weather. Yeah, so if we were taking a look, again, this is the warmest, which theoretically would have the most cape on the GFS. Not a lot. Yeah, again, you can't rule out completely anything with this because it's just so intense. But when I'm looking at these cape values and there's no cape, no sin, I don't think there's going to be thunder snow. I'm going to say no. But again, it's a very, very low chance. That's the official is very low chance, but unofficially I would say no. I have to remember where. Oh, I know. We're going to look at one other forecast model before we wrap up tonight, which is the HRRR. Because these don't have ice accumulation, but the HRRR does. So let me pull that up real quick here. Rapid refresh. High resolution rapid refresh. Here we go. Let me make sure this is the right one. Okay. And we want the northeast. Okay, let me pull that up now. All right. Before we look at any of the other ones, let's take a look at the same process we did with the HRRR with the other ones. There we go. So again, this doesn't show the difference between rain and snow. This is just, I think this is DBZ. Yes, DBZ. So it's just showing intensity. But showing the most intense is actually faster. The most intense here is 6 a.m. But that's still kind of in line with the 6 to 8 a.m. is still close. Or 6 to 7 a.m., sorry. Oh, no, so that would mean 5 a.m. This is 5 a.m. I keep thinking daylight saving time. This is 5 a.m. So that's the most intense it looks like there, but we just can't tell from here if it is actually rain or snow. That we need to get the temperatures. Let me see where that is. We got updrafts. Wind we won't take a look at right now. Here we go. 2 meter temperature. So with the heaviest there, which is about that 10Z, it's showing temperatures. Oh, this is Celsius. Oh, this is Fahrenheit. Oh, it just repeats the color. That's weird. So 40 to low 40s there is the point where we are seeing that rain. And then it looks like the cold doesn't leave the area It's still cold at 6Z. It really doesn't start warming up till about 10Z. And let's see. Total. Here we go. Snow depth. That's the one I want. All right. Accumulated. Here we go. Snow depth. Now you see, it's interesting. That one's changing. Probably because it's taking into account the rain. But that's showing there, kind of in that 1 to 3 inches. That's the snow depth. But I also just want to see what it was doing with total accumulated snowfall with a 10 to 1. If it loops. Looper display by Tim Pease. Maybe a refresh. There we go. See, the total snowfall dropped is higher here. That's showing maybe 3 to 6 inches, kind of like what I was thinking. But then the positive snow depth is starting to drop when it switches to rain, because the rain is going to drop the actual snow total. And the one last one I wanted to find was ice. If it's on here. Soil moisture at 30 centimeters. Interesting. Is there ice on here? There is not. I thought this had ice. Interesting. One and a half inches of ice. Wow. But there is no ice on here. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the wrap up. So overall, winds. Let me just show you that real quick because winds are going to be a big factor. Where are you? Here you are. So on the GFS, lower dynamics, 10-meter wind. Right here at the coast. That's what they're talking about with the storm force winds. 40 to 50, actually no, 30 to 40 mile per hour sustained winds. And even getting more interior. New York City is right at the blue, so 20. The blue to green. So they're going to see sustained 20 mile per hour winds with maybe gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Same thing even going into northern New Jersey, lower Hudson Valley. We're seeing that, say, 10 to 20 mile per hour winds from the northeast, thus the storm being called a nor'easter. And gusts, again, could be 10 to 15 miles per hour over that. So maybe 15 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour. So that's going to make for a pretty bad day. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the overall of the storm. Yes, I'll see if on Tuesday, if I'm going to do my Games and Storms live stream, we will talk about the volcano eruption. Oh, I did not know it sent air pressure waves. I'll have to take a look at that. If you can have something, send to me on my Facebook page or my Twitter. If you have that for Tuesday if I go live, then I would appreciate that. So the volcano sent pressure waves around the world. I think I remember in the group chat I still have with all the FiOS meteorologists, the plate, the actual like the plates themselves in the Pacific are denser than the Atlantic. So that means there is more energy stored. So when it released, it was able to release more energy. Yeah. So Delvin, if you could, Weatherman AP is my Twitter. So if you could send any information with that to me, it would be, it would be appreciated. Reaching Alaska, yes. Yeah, I did see the tsunami advisory for Alaska through all the western seaboard there. Type it in the chat. Yes, I will. That is my handle for Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Okay. So overall for this, I think what's going to happen is, well, it is snowing at least by me now. So for you guys in Boston and Albany, I would assume it's going to start snowing soon. And it's going to stay as snow until about 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. That's the time frame where it's going to go from snow, not to rain. I think it's going to go from snow to sleet because we have those interlocking warm, cold layers aloft. So it's going to go from snow, melt to rain, refreeze into sleet, and then come down to the ground. Well, I hope I could help clean that up. And you are very welcome, Delvin. So 1 to 2 a.m., I think, is going to be the transition to sleet. And then we're going to have the ice accumulations for, say, the 1 to 2 a.m. till about maybe 4 to 6 a.m. From that point, it's going to transition to rain. But because it's raining doesn't mean it's all over. Because that rain, once it hits the ground, because it's been so cold this past week, once that rain hits the ground, it could refreeze, or once that rain hits the ice that's already on the ground, it's going to refreeze again and just add to more ice. So that's going to be the challenge, is even though it's going to switch to heavy rain between, say, 4 to 6 a.m., and then after that it's going to be mostly rain, it's still going to be causing icy conditions. And then after 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., we could be seeing, this is again for mostly around the New York City area, slight different timings for Boston and Albany. Albany, I don't even think you're going to get much ice at all. But for the New York City area, after, say, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., I think we're going to have wraparound snow. And I think the wraparound snow is going to be for all. Not going to be a lot of snow. Usually wraparound snow isn't intense. It's just the leftover moisture that is in combination with the backside of the low pressure, the counterclockwise rotation with northerly winds. So you get the cold air and you're going to get that leftover moisture just creating some snow. So yeah, we could have some snowflakes or some snow showers at the tail end of this. And then the temperatures are going to drop quite a bit from 40s in the morning to the 20s by the afternoon. So our high temperature for tomorrow may actually be occurring about 8 a.m. Yep, Delvin, you are right. Colder temperatures to the end of the storm there. And the other factor is going to be the wind. Like I just showed, or like I showed you on the map just before, we're going to be seeing maybe 15 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts, especially along the coast, up to 50 miles per hour. More inland in the New York City area, we may be seeing gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. Once you get much more inland like Albany, maybe the 10 to 15 mile per hour winds with gusts, again, not too much more beyond that. Maybe around 15 to 20 miles per hour for the gusts. I don't think too much wind is going to make it that far inland. For Boston, yeah, I think because you're at the coastline, you're still close to the coast, you could see those gusts getting up to maybe 30 miles per hour, because that's going to be any coastline region. So that's the winds, and then the flooding, and that's, again, Boston for being near the coast, all the way through Rhode Island, Connecticut, Long Island, the Jersey Shore. All of that is going to be experiencing some sort of coastal flooding, and it's going to be more than normal because of the moon with the astronomical high tide. So coastline areas, you definitely want to prepare for flooding. All right, so that wraps up this live stream. Delvin, Raymond, it was a pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed. Wind and rain, that is going to be the case, which this is, by definition, a true intense nor'easter with actually a little platter of all, a little poo-poo platter for weather, if you could say. All the precipitations we are going to be getting, maybe not hail. We're probably not going to be getting hail, but we're going to be seeing most of the others: sleet, grapple, rain, snow, all that. Grapple, yes. Poo-poo platters. All right. Thankfully, it's Martin Luther King Day, so hopefully the data trends for COVID testing isn't too disrupted. Yes, hopefully, because it's a holiday, or at least it's a holiday. Yeah, it is a federal holiday. So a lot of places won't be open. So maybe not as much happening there, and everyone stays inside. Fingers crossed. You need the instability for hail, yes. Which is really, going back to the question about the thunder snow, I don't think it's going to happen, so we don't have that instability. We don't have the convective potential energy there. So we're not going to see hail, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, yes. Because now I have a glass roof on my car with the Tesla. All right. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you both for joining. If I do go live on Tuesday, I'm not sure when the time will be. It's just keep an eye on those notifications. All right. Have a great rest of your evening. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Make sure if you're watching this later in the replay, hit the subscribe button below to get more weather content like this. We get Tesla content. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming out. I will see you all in that next video, and stay safe through the storm. See you soon.